Well, can Apple do anything wrong? That's the question, as the tech giant readies a new update to iOS devices that promises everything from more accessible fitness to clean energy charging. Investors, they're waiting for an update of their own. The company's set to release earnings next week. For a closer look, let's turn to Sozzi's take. Soz, this is where we find you today.
Right, what's clean energy charging? I know. What does that mean? It's just, my phone's just going to charge magically?
I thought it was an EV term, honestly.
You might be right. All right, let's run this down because Apple earnings are in fact coming up. So here's my little preview for your folks. Overarching theme, I think, of this preview is the street is really expecting some good things from Apple. First up, what Wall Street is saying into earnings. One, this quarter may not stomp out concerns of a hardware slowdown. We've seen a big PC slowdown that has impacted the likes of AMD, Intel, you name it, in the chip space. There is some concern on that hardware slowing down, notably as it pertains to iPads, potentially hitting Apple in this quarter. Next, the street is expecting a slight earnings beat by Apple, so maybe 1 to 2 cents. I've seen some whisper numbers out there on the street looking for a beat by Apple of about 5 cents, so something to keep in mind. Also, too, iPhone, iPad demand will help offset FX challenges. That's the vibe on the street. Maybe I would be a little concerned with the iPad, just given the slowdown we have seen in the PC market. But by and large, the new iPhones have launched very, very well. Next up here, potential red flags, areas of concern you should be on the lookout for. And there I am holding or flying that Apple flag right there. One, December quarter guidance. It is universally, the vibe out there on the street is, even though Apple may have had a good quarter here, that guidance for the holiday quarter may come in pretty conservative relative to estimates, given what you see on FX, given what you see about pressure in the Chinese economy, and of course, our own slowdown here in the U.S., economic slowdown, that is. Number two, China, as I just mentioned, a concern by analysts. And lastly, work from home impact on various Apple devices, notably that iPad. And I do want to call out, give a little analyst shout out here to Barclays' Claudia Gilbert-Tallin. She's noting here this, looking out to December quarter, we are unsure what guidance management will give, but we expect some conservatism, like I just mentioned, given the macro backdrop, despite the extra week since the December quarter has 14 weeks. So it's just the street is overall, I would say, expecting for Apple to have a good quarter, beat on earnings, have a conservative guidance. And my take, if Netflix positively surprised the market, you would think Apple would step up here and post a good quarter of its own. It's just a matter, how will the stock react if you do get, let's say, a 5-cent earnings beat and conservative guidance? Now, the argument could be made that is priced into the stock here, which sets that up for a positive reaction on earnings day. But again, that's just like throwing darts.
Yeah, I think services will outperform. Services is seen as one of those little luxuries that consumers will lean into, even as they kind of batten the hatches on their own spending. But then on the other side, there is this question, and it could already be priced in very well to the stock, is on the demand side that they're seeing for the iPhones, where they've already, according to reports, pulled back some of the kind of iPhone Pro, or the iPhone Pro model, pulled back some of the production on that in response to what they had been seeing on the demand front, and reading through to see exactly where they were looking at a consumer that was more affluent, had more of the appetite to spend up to get the iPhone Pro Max. And so with that, you've got the higher tier that's selling better. The question that I would have going into this report, though, is on what volume. And that is something why I've been paying close attention to the telecom companies this quarter, is especially what they're saying around whether or not customers are actually trading up or trading down. And they're saying that they're trading up right now. So it leads you to believe that maybe they're opting into that higher tier phone. It's just a question of how many of them.
Right. And one I think we could agree on here, this will be a market moving report, especially in this environment where there's a lot of macroeconomic concerns here. Apple's report next week will very much set the tone.
Absolutely.